JM hit me and said, hey, how do you feel about them dragging you over on the USC boards? Well, I can confirm it's happening on one board, the Peristyle, over there at uscfootball.com. And here's what it's about. The other night, we were talking about programs in the Big Ten, and we were talking about the four newcomers to the Big Ten. You got USC, you got UCLA, and you got Oregon and Washington. And so I wanted to ask myself, as programs, where do they fit in? Do they enter as the 10th best, as the 3rd best, as the 7th best? And so I responded accordingly. And I said I thought USC, as a program, was entering the Big Ten in the 3rd tier. And then I defined what the tiers were. I said I think Ohio State and Oregon are in Tier 1. You can put Michigan up there if you want to. If you don't, Michigan's clearly in Tier 2 with Penn State. And that's it. So 4 total teams make up the first 2 tiers. And then I said after that, it's really, really muddy. But I think there's clear separation. And I said USC would be in Tier 3. So they grabbed that over on the USC site and they took it to the board and they talked about how insane that was. Now, I have no problem going to our team site boards and conversing with people. And so I did. I got a heads up a little bit late, but I did. I went over there, and there's a 4-page deep thread on the Peristyle now where we've been going back and forth, and I have not gotten a valid rebuttal that's changed my mind yet. So what I did get, and this is fair, what I did get was a whole lot of folks saying, if we maximize our potential in the Big Ten, we are a Tier 1 program. Of course you are. I don't disagree with that. As I stated earlier tonight, as I'll state one more time, when I'm talking about how you're entering and where you're being placed, I'm talking about the here and now. I'm talking about a rolling 3-year snapshot. What's your stability? What's your talent acquisition level? And in USC's case, how do you match up philosophically with what you're going to have to be to win in the Big Ten? And it's very unstable right now. It's very uncertain. So certainly, if it pans out, you can be a Tier 1 program. But that's not how you're entering. I had other folks say you just hate USC, which is out of all the allegations I get thrown my way, one of the most inaccurate allegations. I have admitted before that I grew up in the South, and a bunch of folks they hated USC in the South because it was the Pete Carroll era. That's when I was growing up. Everyone nationally hated USC. It wasn't just a Southern thing. Now, I remember when USC came to Auburn, I think blanked Auburn that afternoon. And I remember how all the old heads in the SEC had been talking about how that southern humidity was going to bite the Trojans. And then the Trojans come in there and say, hello, y'all going to score? What y'all going to do? And I remember kind of chuckling because it made a lot of people look foolish down there. I couldn't care less. I actually root for USC. I've admitted that many times. Would love to be able to cover the sport as USC was a Tier 1 program nationally. Would love that. I hope I've been pretty clear about that. And then I had some people say that I had USC as a Tier 3 Big Ten team because of SEC homerism, when literally every team in the conversation is a non-SEC team. So anyway, I will take you guys back to spring, I guess. That's when Lincoln Riley had overhauled his defensive staff. And Lincoln Riley said, along with that overhaul, we're overhauling our philosophy. He didn't do that because they're where they need to be as a program. He did that because they're not where they need to be as a program. And he understands. We are going to a world where they play a certain caliber of football on the line of scrimmage. You want to know where you don't measure up right now as a program? You don't acquire and develop talent along the lines of scrimmage like Ohio State, like Michigan, like Oregon even does, or like Penn State does. And you will get humbled very quickly if you can't match up on the line of scrimmage. You guys have seen that out in the Pac-12. And by the way, not to bring up bad memories, but I was summoned on that little board about, not quite a year ago, when I had predicted that USC would underachieve last year. And everyone doubted it, and everyone wants to call you names. And then they go 7-5. And then everyone shuts up. No one comes back to own it. But I was right. And right now, I'm right on this. It is opinion, but it's not really hard to figure out. USC's not entering the Big Ten as a Tier 1 or even a Tier 2. With the caveat, those tiers aren't deep. I think there are 2 teams in each one of them. And USC's not on par as program with any of the 4. Now, outside of that, you kind of grab bag it. And they could absolutely ascend to being a Tier 1 program very quickly there. You know what, though? If I'm wrong about them entering as a third-tier program in the Big Ten, and you're right in that they're a Tier 1, they'll challenge for the Big Ten championship this year. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Ohio State, probably 1 and 2 in any order in the Big Ten entering the season. They get Penn State at home. They go on the road to Michigan as Michigan is hitting reset. They go on the road to Washington as Washington is hitting reset. They get Notre Dame at home at the very end of the year. If you're right and I'm wrong, it'll bear itself out on the field. USC will be a Big Ten championship contender. They'll be right there in the thick of it this year. It doesn't matter if it's year 1. So, good news. Good news for everyone who thinks I'm wrong on that. They'll play the season this fall, and they will throw egg all over my face. Happened before. It has happened before. But I don't know. I did not see an argument that pushed me off of my default point of view. I'll say that.